this is LockOS, and welcome to another episode of Mission Editor tutorial. Now, in this episode, we're going to go over setting up navigation in the mission for your aircraft, as well as your helicopters. Setting up navigation in DCS is relatively actually fairly simple, but it's very important to make sure your players get on target and back home. So, to start off, aircraft with INS and waypoints, for aircraft with an INS system, they have an INS system and a waypoint system, because some aircraft just have an INS system, but most have a combination of INS and a waypoint system to navigate between waypoints. So, in either of those cases, just placing waypoints on the map will fill in the waypoints in their mission computer for the purpose of navigation. So, an F-18C Hornet right here is a perfect example. It's a nav computer will know that waypoint 1's there, 2 is there, 3 is there, 4 is there, and then 5 is there. Keep in mind, some aircraft are limited. I know, although some of the aircraft, they might be limited, but they might not be what we would think is quote-unquote limited. I know, for instance, the Mirage 2000 can only have 20 waypoints stored. The Tomcat only can have 3 waypoints stored. At least 3 navigation waypoints as we know them. The Tomcat can use additional waypoints, and they really are effectively navigation waypoints. They just go underneath different names. But sticking on topic for today, something to note is this is relatively simple, and it's a very easy way to get navigation information loaded onto your aircraft. Do note that if you're going to have a waypoint as a target waypoint, which is very important for ground attack, you're going to have to make sure that the waypoint that you set up for ground attack is on the ground. So we have waypoint 3 here, and we want this. We're gonna delete the Hornet for this mission for the later on, but for the sake of argument, if we wanted to use the Hornet for ground attack, this altitude we would have to set to 0 feet, and then it'll automatically go up to ground level. So it'll automatically zero out the altitude, and by placing a 0 there, and that way the aircraft will then, whenever it goes to attack this waypoint, the sensors will actually slew onto the ground rather than a point within the air. So it's important to note, with all aircraft with INS systems, like especially with ones with targeting pods, make sure that you have the waypoint over the target for their targeting waypoint be actually on the ground. Also to note, especially for carrier aircraft, their landing waypoint will be this spot right here in fixed space, but obviously a carrier group moves, so their landing waypoint, which will be their last waypoint, will be somewhat inaccurate, but it'll be at least hopefully close enough that the carrier's navigation system will be able to get them back onto the boat. So that is something to note. I believe there is one other interesting thing to note. I do believe the landing waypoint does tie in with certain aircraft and how they do their automatic landing systems. I believe the Mirage and the Vigan, the landing waypoint does affect some of their advanced landing systems. So keep that in mind. That is something that does and can happen. So that's it for the INS and waypoint system. TACAN is the next thing that needs set up. Now, a TACAN beacon, TACAN beacons come in several flavors. Tankers, air refueling tankers have an airborne TACAN system that aircraft can use to navigate to the tanker for refueling. We're not going to cover that today because that's refueling and as a whole. Setting up refueling aircraft is a bit of a thing in and of itself, but for ground-based TACAN, which is very common, especially at military air bases, it'll look like on the map something like this. So it'll be a triangle pointed down with square ends. Every TACAN beacon will have a 3-letter code as well as a channel. The 3-letter code, when you tune into that beacon, that will repeat in Morse code in your headset. So this is normally a system that is found at military air bases on land, but there is a variant of the TACAN system called a VORTAC, which is right here. And in this case, the ends of the triangle, I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see it better, are squared off. These VORTACs should have a frequency and a channel to tune into. Lastly, the last two things are you can actually set up naval units and a ground unit to use TACAN. Carriers, like this one here, can be set up to use TACAN. So in advanced waypoint options, go ahead and you can set up TACAN. And I'm going to show you on a separate unit how to set that up on the system. So we're going to go ahead over here, and if you want TACAN, if you want to create your own TACAN beacon at an airport or location that doesn't have a TACAN beacon, you want to go ahead into here, select vehicle group, because it's the only one that's going to be, because vehicle groups are the only way you're going to be able to get AI on the unit. Go to waypoint, just place down a single beacon TACAN portable TTS 3030. It's in the category of fortification. Just place it down wherever you need it, and you want to go down here. It's not mobile, so you don't have to worry about placing a waypoint. Just go. So go down here on the advanced waypoint actions. Go to delete this. Go to add. Perform command. Activate TACAN. Give it a name. You want to keep it relatively short so it can appear in on certain aircraft to will receive this information. So AB, call sign AB. Bearing allows the TACAN beacon to give bearing information. Otherwise, it'll just give range information. Channel is X or Y for TACAN. You want to give it a channel that's unique, so we'll give it, say, 11. And then you want to use it on the ground unit. So this is where naming conventions come in handy. Obviously, Group AI knows to pick which group in this unit to do it in, but again, comes in handy. You want on ground 26. Ground 26 is the unit, and we're all good there. So we got to the carrier. So that's TACAN. That's TACAN setup. Again, fixed maps. Every map, not every map, but maps will come with fixed beacons for airports and other locations. Should you add in your own beacons for TACAN? Carriers, as part of their nature, are equipped with TACAN, so that's all set up. Next is ICLS for carriers. ICLS and ACLS is the instrument carrier landing system and the automatic carrier landing system. You want to go ahead and activate those as well. Again, you go to add waypoint actions at the very beginning of the mission. Activate ICLS. You can give the name and you can give this action a name if you need to, but it's not real important up here. Down here, you can give it a name. I give it STA. Keep it simple. Channel 5. ICLS systems work on a fixed number of channels, so give it something memorable. Make sure to mention it in the mission briefing. So we're going to give it 5. And the unit that's spawning on. Same thing for ACLS with name and unit. Now, ILS systems are something that we really can't add to the game, but they are something that we should be aware of as mission creators. Whereas ICLS is used for carrier-based aircraft, ILS is used for ground-based aircraft. And unfortunately, the two systems are not compatible. So if you have Hornets in your mission, F-18C Hornets, they can only use the carrier's ICLS, whereas Vipers, F-16Cs, can only use the ILS system. So keep that in mind. It's just how the systems work. So using this as an example, Saipan, if you see a very long and narrow arrow pointing towards an airstrip or a runway, that's an ILS beacon. So the ILS beacon reaches out all the way over here on the glide slope in. It's at this frequency, at this bearing. Make sure to note these in your mission briefing so that when pilots return, they can plug that into their system and navigate to the airstrip. Note, some air bases, especially large air bases, have ILS systems pointing both directions. And for air bases like Anderson that have 2 runways, they point on both directions on both runways. And every one of these frequencies should be different. So keep that in mind. Next thing to note to set up are the ADF signals. Any unit can technically become an ADF beacon, but the ones that are on the map are fixed. So 385 AJA is this beacon, and again, if you want to have units navigate to a fixed radio beacon, you can make sure to put it in a mission editor, and then you can navigate towards that. Units can be set up to broadcast a frequency, and you can use that also to create ADF and radio homing. I know, and in particular, the Huey uses an FM signal to also home in on, so you can also use FM instead of AM if you're playing with the Huey. Now, real quick, we're going to pop over to the save. Even though I plan on getting rid of that Hornet, we're going to do a new map real quick. We're going to jump onto the Caucasus, because if you're playing with a Soviet system, or rather, if you're playing with Soviet aircraft, namely currently the MiG-21, there is another set of beacons to be aware of. Alright, load it in. So going over here to say MACOP, this looks like an ILS system, but instead it's what's known as a PRMG. So to beacons. So we have RSBN and then we have PMRGs. We're going to ignore all the rest of these. So, now this is very much a Russian system, and it's mostly limited to the MiG-21, but RSBNs and PRMGs are systems that the MiG-21 in particular uses to land, and future Russian aircraft should also follow that system, but the Caucasus map is the only place that has this system, so keep that in mind when doing MiG-21 missions. Only the Caucasus is really set up to use the MiG-21 special navigation systems. I do believe the RSBN signals you can use them with other systems, but I do know the radio might be able to use with ADF, but I know for a fact that RSBN in particular can only be used at those air bases. One other system that is very unique to the Russian aircraft, in particular, I know the Yak-52 and the L-39 series, they tend to use a sort of a quasi-ILS system where they have two ADF beacons in a row that are lined up, and by alternating between the two beacons, you can kind of get an idea of how far off you are from the center line. And only the Caucasus really has a setup where you have two ADF beacons in a row leading up to the airport. So keep that in mind if you're flying, if you're going to have the L-39 or the Yak-52. This map is the only map that can really use the inner-outer beacon system. And that's it for understanding the different navigation systems on the map, as well as setting up some in the mission editor. So that's pretty much it. Just make sure, before I leave, quick reminder, make sure all these TACAN, ILS, all these beacons are noted in the mission briefing so that your players know how to put them in before taking off from the carrier and getting lost on the way home. So this is Loco S. I'm going to be signing out, and hopefully starting in the next set of mission editing videos, we'll be getting into the AI. So until then, this is Loco S, signing out.